So a very good morning once again to all the students of class 12, and today we are going to do the last portion of our short story B. Wordsworth, written by V.S. Naipaul, and we are going to finish off with our literature syllabus with this portion of this last short story. So very little is left of the text. I expect all of you to take out your short story textbooks and get ready for today's class. And please watch this video till the end. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed as yet. So let's begin. The text of the story is coming up on your screen now. So students, we continue from where we had left off in our previous class. So please follow the text as I start explaining, and please try to watch this video as I told you till the end. So I am now scrolling to that page where we had left off. So the narrator was asking B. Wordsworth as to how he earned money. In what way did he manage to earn his living? And the question is now being answered by B. Wordsworth. So we shall see what exactly he says. When I nodded, he laughed in a crooked way. So when I nodded, nodded means when I said, yes, I want to know how exactly you manage to live. In what way do you manage to earn your living? Then he laughed in a crooked way. So that laughter was something which was quite surprising, because the narrator hadn't expected that he would laugh in such a manner. He said, I sing calypsos in the calypso season, and that lasts you the rest of the year. So the boy wants to know, when B. Wordsworth says that I sing calypsos. Now what does he mean by singing calypso? Well, as I told you earlier in the first part of this video, that calypsos are actually traveling musicians and singers, and B. Wordsworth says that he earns his living by singing songs and moving around. And the boy is surprised, the narrator is surprised, and so he's asking, can you manage with that money? I mean, throughout the year, because calypso singing is a seasonal affair. And if you are not regular in that, you may not be able to earn enough to last for the whole year. And that is why the boy is asking this question. B. Wordsworth says it is enough. The boy says, but you will be the richest man in the world when you write the greatest poem. Now the boy, who is already impressed by B. Wordsworth's ability to write poetry, and because he has already told the boy that he has been writing the greatest poem for mankind, so the boy is wondering, and therefore he is saying this, that you will become the richest man in the world when you write the greatest poem. He didn't reply. Of course, why didn't he reply? Because heart to heart, B. Wordsworth knew very well that he was not a poet, and he could never become rich by writing that kind of poetry, and he could never become really someone like the real Wordsworth, that is William Wordsworth. So he didn't reply. So that was it. Then the scene changes another day. One day when I went to see him in his little house. Now this is the last part of the story. Here we shall see how B. Wordsworth has fallen ill and he is going to die. So this is the last meeting, you could say, between the boy and B. Wordsworth, after which he never sees him again, and even his house is pulled down, and nothing remains, no trace of him remains after that. So we are coming to a very tragic and very sad, very heart-rending, a very touchy portion of the story now. So please pay attention and please listen. So one day when I went to see him in his little house, I found him lying on his little bed. He looked so old and so weak that I found myself wanting to cry. So when he saw B. Wordsworth, he realized that this man was looking very old unnecessarily, suddenly, as if he had grown very old. and he looked unwell. So the narrator, who had already developed an attachment with B. Wordsworth, starts feeling bad to see him in this condition, and so he was, on the verge of breaking down or crying. He said, "The poem is not going well." So who said this? B. Wordsworth said this. The poem is not going well. So we must understand what this poem is all about. This poem is B. Wordsworth himself. This poem is B. Wordsworth's life itself. So the poem is not going well. That means the journey of my life is not really going smooth. My life is not going well. Things are not going well. I am not well. That is what he means to say when he says this line to the boy. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking through the window at the coconut tree, and he was speaking as though I wasn't there. So what do you make of this? He was not trying to make eye contact with this boy. Why? Because he did not want to make the boy sad. Because he knew that he was dying, that his days were numbered, and that's the reason he tried to avoid eye contact with this boy, and he said these words looking away from him. He said, "When I was 20, I felt the power within myself." Everybody feels like that. You are now 16, 17, some of you are 18. Those who are doing this story right now, 17 plus, 16 plus. So you are in that age group where you are towards the end of your teens, or rather in the middle of your teens, and by the time you are 20, you will feel so empowered from within. You will realize that you are the new generation, and you have to make this earth, this world, the whole of humanity move forward. Everything will be in your hands. The whole world will be in your hands. So that is what happens. You see, with coming of youth, everyone feels that way. So that is what B. Wordsworth also felt when he was 20. So he says, "When I was 20, I felt the power within myself. Then, almost in front of my eyes, I could see his face growing older and more tired." So the boy is watching B. Wordsworth, and suddenly he seems to be growing older than before. Even older than what he was looking like. He was growing older than before. So, almost in front of his eyes, I could see his face grow older and more tired. He said, "But that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. Now he is no longer in his 20s. So he is a matured man. He is a middle-aged man. And then I felt it so keenly." Keen means sharp. So there was this very sharp sensation. It was as though I had been slapped by my mother. I could see it clearly on his face. It was there for everyone to see. Death on the shrinking face. Even a small boy could understand that there was this, you could say, appearance or impression of death written on his face. He was dying. Even this little boy could understand that. So death was written on his face. He looked at me and saw my tears and sat up. He said, "Come." I went and sat on his knees. So you see, he treats him like his own child, makes him sit on his lap. So he makes him sit on his lap, and then he looks into his eyes and says, "Oh, you can see it. You can see it too. I always knew you had the poet's eye. I knew it. See, he has not lost his sense of humor. He has not lost his calm, even at the face of death." And he says, "You can make out that I am dying because inside you there is a poet." He didn't even look sad. And that made me burst out crying loudly. So B. Wordsworth was not crying. He was not the man who would cry even if he knew that he was going to die. He is not the kind of person who will cry. But the boy started crying. He pulled me to his thin chest and said, "Do you want me to tell you a funny story?" Once again, another story. And he smiled encouragingly at me. Why do you think he is doing this? To encourage the boy. Funny story, to make him smile. But the boy was already upset. But I couldn't reply. So the boy was not in a condition to give a reply to B. Wordsworth. He said, "When I have finished this story, I want you to promise that you will go away." So we have finished page 123 and we are going on to page 124. When I finish telling you this funny story, you will go away from here. Make a promise. You will go away and will never come back to see me. Do you promise? You have to promise. The boy nodded, meaning to say, without saying, he nodded his head up and down, meaning to say, yes, I promise. He said, "Good. Well, listen, that story I told you about the boy poet and the girl poet, do you remember that? That wasn't true. It was something I just made up. All this talk about poetry and the greatest poem in the world, that wasn't true either. Isn't that the funniest thing you have heard? Do you believe him? As readers of this story, do you believe B. Wordsworth, what he says here to this boy? He says that the boy poet, girl poet story, and then the girl poet died, and the garden grew and grew till it was overgrown, and that I am a great poet, I call myself Black Wordsworth, and that I am composing the greatest poem in the world. Everything that I told you was actually a lie. Now, isn't that funny? But his voice broke. That breaking voice is the clear giveaway of the fact that he is not telling the truth, at least this time. Maybe about the poem, to some extent, maybe. Or maybe he could be a poet who wanted to compose poetry and wanted to become famous, but after the death of his wife, he lost all hope and he gave up on poetry writing. So he only talks about writing a poem, the greatest poem in the world, but he never really goes ahead with it. His voice broke. He has also grown emotional now. So long he was not crying, the boy was crying, but now he is emotional. I left the house and ran home crying. Narrator says that he left the house of B. Wordsworth and he went home crying like a poet for everything I saw. So he was crying according to B. Wordsworth, only poets can cry like that. And so he felt that, working in his mind, that he was probably crying like a poet for everything I saw. Why was he crying? Because of whatever he had seen. I walked along Alberto Street. Now the scene changes. This is the end of the story. A year later. So he left B. Wordsworth and kept his promise, never went back to Alberto Street or to B. Wordsworth's house for a year, and then this is happening after 1 year. I walked along Alberto Street a year later, but I could find no sign of the poet's house. It hadn't vanished just like that. It had been pulled down. A house does not vanish. House cannot vanish. It was demolished. Why was it demolished? Perhaps B. Wordsworth died and his property was taken over by the government, and then they broke down that house because that was not even worth to be there in the first place, with only one room and an old house. And what had come up in its place? And a big 2-storied building had taken its place. The mango tree and the plum tree and the coconut tree had all been cut down. This is what happens. With increasing population pressure, there is more and more need for space, especially in big cities. And I have shown you the present scenario of Port of Spain in our last class, which we had of literature. I had posted in the WhatsApp group a clip of Port of Spain. So it's a very populated and congested city, and in all big cities there is no scope for smaller houses with big compounds to continue to thrive. Rather, these are taken over by promoters and new buildings come up and all the space is utilized, so all the trees are cut down. So that is what had happened. There was brick and concrete everywhere. What had been a naturally growing garden was now a concrete jungle. Concrete jungle? Buildings and buildings. All new buildings had come up. Mainly this double-storied building. It was as though B. Wordsworth had never existed. It seemed, one look at that place, the site where B. Wordsworth's house used to be, it seemed that he had never existed. Because not only was he gone, his property was also absolutely gone. No traces of what it used to be 1 year before could now be found. Everything had been renovated, pulled down and reconstructed. And no trees, no garden, no mango tree, no coconut tree, no plum tree, and no single-roomed house, but a double-storied big concrete building was occupying that space. So with that, we come to the end of this short story. And with that, we also finish with our ISC English Literature syllabus, officially with this video. From now on, for all our English literature classes, we will be doing the revision of English literature. So that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you very much.